was taking care of their house. I was home for summer from school anyway, so it was fun. I had been there for a few weeks and it was pretty quiet. I just went to work, came home, had some time with my friend, enjoying the house to ourselves and whatnot. But one night, I was just laying there watching TV when I heard this really weird, low whistling sound coming from the window that was behind the couch. It struck me as sort of odd, and I just shrugged it off. But then it happened again. It totally sounded like it was a person standing up against the window whistling. I
Mm-hmm.
looked out the window and obviously there was no one there. So I figured I should go check it out. If it was something like the wind on the siding, I should probably fix it because that would get annoying. So I walked out into the backyard. The backyard in my parents' house is really, really pretty. It's sparse, but sort of forest that leads to a road on the other side. So I looked at the house and didn't see anything. But then I heard the sound again. It was coming from the woods in the back. I was pretty, so I hurried back through the door and I locked it behind me.
Hell to the yeah,
I
you
never
little
really
fool.
heard that sound again for the next few days. Until one night, I was asleep in my room, and I could have sworn I was awakened by the whistling sound against my second floor window. I listened hard, and it was dead silent. So I decided I should go ahead and look out the window. I did that whole thing where I crept super slowly towards it and just sort of peeked through it. Outside my window, there was a man just standing there. I was really sleepy, so I can't know how much of this I'm misremembering, but he was just sitting there staring at me. I was completely
Meaning of
frozen,
mine.
and slowly the man pursed his
The hell
lips,
that means?
and I could hear that whistle again. It was crystal clear. It made me feel like crying. I tore myself away from the window and I hid under my covers. The next night I insisted that my friend stay with me. He did, and of course nothing happened. He figured that I was just tired and delirious, and maybe I was right. It gets
Mm-hmm.
kind of anticlimactic here, but I didn't hear it for another week or so. And when I did, it was just one small whistle, just happening randomly, coming from a wall or something like that. It just happens every week or so, and it always freaks me out tremendously. To this day, I would never stay in that house alone anymore.
Wow. Shoot, the first time that happened, if it freaked me out, I wouldn't have been there. And definitely after I saw that dude there, shoot, I was
With
in all
so
kinds
many
of freaked out.
options, choosing the right heart healthy cooking oil can be
Yeah,
hard.
exactly.
So, how do you know which one is right for you? Mazola.
My name is Chris, and this happened to me in the late 1970s. I grew up in a poor neighborhood in Calgary, Alberta, and like most young kids, I had a number of friends from school and the neighborhood. I was 13 at the time, and this was right at the very beginning of the personal home computer revolution. You would hear about personal computers on the news all the time. However, no one actually owned a home computer. It was almost like a story of science fiction to actually see one. One day, my friend started talking about this university professor who moved into one of our duplexes near our school. He was supposed to be a really cool guy who had all kinds of gadgets in his apartments, and he actually owned a personal computer. One afternoon, when walking home from school, I was crossing through a park near the professor's house. From the second floor balcony of the duplex, I saw some of my friends and they waved to me to come over, so I did. The
Mm-hmm.
teacher lived on the second floor of a two-story duplex
Really close.
and looked the part of a teacher with shaggy hair, beard, and glasses. At the time, I was too young and naive to see the warning signs about this guy. He lived alone in a three-bedroom duplex apartment. He said he had a girlfriend, but we never actually saw any woman ever at the apartment when me and my friends were there. He had a lot of weird looking camera equipment, and developed his own film. Most importantly, he was a computer science teacher, and the field was pretty brand new, and he had built a home computer from scratch. My friends and I thought he was the coolest guy we ever met. He had all kinds of games on his computer, and he allowed any of the young guys in the neighborhood to pop by and play on his computer. He also had all kinds of weird gadgets and experiments. He had one of those Jacob Ladder lightning arc gadgets you'd see in those old horror movies. He always seemed to have some new gadget he was making. It wasn't long before we were going over this teacher's house to play on the computers or see his weird gadgets all the time. Sometimes he'd get very physical and grab one of us from behind and bear hug us when he was greeting us. Or he'd stand uncomfortably close to us. After a few months, we were getting suspicious about this guy. He didn't seem to have any family or friends. Sometimes, when there were a lot of kids at his apartment and he was distracted, we would snoop around and look in his cabinets and things like that. We'd find weird items like a pair of brass knuckles.
Yeah.
Handcuffs, and some beads that looked like they were supposed to be white, but they had dried up brown stuff on them.
Doo-doo,
The
baby.
door to his bedroom was always locked. One day, when there was a lot of kids there, he put on some music. He always puts on music, but this time it wasn't top 40 music like he usually would put on. It was like folk music of some kind. My buddy and I were already suspicious at this point, and while everyone was having fun on the computer or hanging with the teacher, we listened to the lyrics of the music. It was hard to make out the lyrics over all the raised voices in the room, but it became very clear that the lyrics was about homosexuality. My buddy and I freaked out, as it hit us at the same time that this guy might like kids in a way that wasn't right. We quickly made an excuse to leave, and went home and told our parents of our suspicions. My father freaked out and told us never to go over that guy's place again. We also put the word out on the street, and pretty quickly everyone became weary of this guy. However, one of my friends from our block, Danny, he thought we were all wrong, and he kept going to see this teacher. One day, Danny stopped coming to school, and the rumor was that something bad happened to him by that guy with the computers. Danny moved away, and not long after, so did the teacher. I can't tell you how lucky me and my buddies felt to have stopped going to that guy's house before something happened to us. Years later, when I was in my early 20s, I took a course at the university on computer programming. One night, my buddy and I were in a computer lab, and we were testing out a new program I wrote. When who walks into the lab? That old guy. This time, both my buddy and I stood up and yelled at that guy to get away from us. He quickly left, and other people in the lab asked what was going on. We told them what happened years ago. I don't know if someone reported him, but we never saw him at the university again after that. My name is Stan. I'm 17 years old, and this story happened about 4 years ago. The school I went to was in a very rural area in my village. My friend Peter went to the same school, but I lived further away. His mom would always drop him off near my house, and we would always walk to school together. On our way to school, we would always pass some farms, and one of them had this really old, creepy house that was abandoned for years. One day, me and Peter said we should check it out and see what's in there, basically. We couldn't go after school because, like I said, Peter lived further away, and his mom needed to get him home. This was also during the winters, so it got dark sooner. For myself and Peter, we came up with the plan that Peter would have a sleepover around my house. And when my parents were asleep, we would sneak out and explore the abandoned farmhouse. It was Friday, and the past few days had been snowing. After school, Peter came to my house. We spent the evening playing video games and looking up creepy videos on the internet. And anxiously waiting to sneak out.
Alright guys, see you later.
1 a.m. rolled around, and we put our coats on and snuck out my bedroom window, which is ground level. We had one flashlight between the both